So we're here today to talk about opportunity zones, and I have to pre-warn you guys because I've given this talk a few times now, and often what happens is people have heard about it, but they don't really know anything about it, and they've just heard a lot of hype. And I want to warn you that it's a roller coaster ride. You're going to hear some stuff, and you're going, "This is great," and then there's a point, and I might warn you when it's going to come, where you're going to be like, "Oh my God, she just kicked me in the stomach. Are you kidding me?" Yeah, so just be aware. It's not all good news for everybody, and it's an interesting thing. So here we go. We're going to talk about the presenters, which is me, and I'll talk about Neal as well. Of course, we're going to talk about what is an opportunity zone. And then we're also going to talk about how did this come about? Where did this thing come from? Many people don't know that story. And of course, we're going to go into the tax benefits because that's why we're all here, right? We're trying to avoid paying taxes. And then we'll also talk about what type of gains are eligible. There's time frame is a very specific thing, just like for a lot of money, you got to understand the time frames that are very specific and the types of OZ investments that are eligible. We'll talk about OZ investment versus non-OZ investment. So we're going to look at if you take $1 million and you put it in a non-OZ versus you take $1 million and you put it in an OZ. How do those compare? So we'll look at the numbers. And then we're going to finish up with a fight between 1031s and opportunity zones. Okay? So we're going to say the pros and cons of each one and which one comes out on top. And then, of course, we'll have plenty of time for review and questions. Now, I will say if you have specific questions as I'm going, I may take the question, but if you can hold most of them to the end. If it's something that's very pertinent, but let's try and keep a flow going. Sometimes there's a lot of questions and we get off in minutia. So just, I'm going to let you be the best judge of that. And if I decide, I think that's better at the end, or I'm going to be speaking about that in 5 minutes, if you could just hold that, I might ask you that as well. Oh, we've got a disclaimer. We are not investment advisors, and this seminar is provided for educational purposes only. We're not CPAs, and this is a tax benefit webinar and is informational in nature. You must discuss the details with your CPA. This is really important, and even with 1031s, you really need to talk to your CPA before you make investments in opportunity zones. All investments involve different degrees of risk. You should be aware of your risk tolerance level and financial situations at all times. You're free to accept or reject all investment recommendations made by us. Do I have to read this whole thing? I think that you guys can finish reading this. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so some of you might know this guy, neal-bawa. He is the founder and CEO of 2 companies, Grocapitus and Multifamily U. He calls himself a technologist who accidentally fell in love with real estate. We also know him as the mad scientist of multifamily. And who here has heard Neal speak? Okay, pretty impressive speaker, right? So many of you may have come here tonight thinking he was speaking. Apologies for that. But one thing Neal, the mad scientist, is not good at is his calendar. And he is actually in Dallas tonight getting ready to speak at Michael Blank's mastermind tomorrow. So here I am speaking on opportunity zones for you. But it's all going to be good. So I definitely encourage you to follow Neal and listen to Neal if you haven't done it before. He's always got lots of great content. The portfolio is actually, these numbers are wrong. It's 2,000 units now across 9 states, maybe $200 million. Lots of happy investors. And then here's me. I am the vice president of Grocapitus. I am also a modern entrepreneur that has a tech background. I started out as a programmer and a systems architect. But my family actually is in commercial real estate. So I am 3rd generation commercial real estate. Grew up in Southern California. My grandfather used to flip houses back in the day, like way back in the 30s, and then built up a very large commercial portfolio. And I won't bore you with the details, but anyway, I grew up my dad's an architect. I've been involved in commercial real estate quite a bit. And now I'm back in it. So I've partnered with Neal, and together we've raised, these numbers are wrong too, a bunch of money, we've purchased 1,000 units in the past 10 months now. So we've been going gangbusters. I'm the lead in the underwriting group. So I do all the numbers and vet the deals. And I'm also in the asset manager for the Grocapitus portfolio. So once you buy a property, that's not the end game. That's the beginning game. And then you have to run that property. So I'm on the team that's on the weekly calls with the property manager and making sure our investors' money is safe and being taken care of. So a lot of time goes into that as well. I also teach underwriting in Multifamily U boot camp. So, and then I do webinars. If some of you may know my voice, I co-host a lot of the Multifamily U webinars as well, which are the free webinars that we were talking about. Lots of great content. All right, so we're going to go through this pretty quickly. These are some pretty buildings. We like new construction. We also have value add. This building up here is new construction that was built in Springville, Utah. These buildings here are all value add. Various markets. We're very big on data and markets. So we don't invest in just anything. It's not just about the dollars. A lot of it is about the markets. But we're not here to talk about that tonight. We're here to talk about opportunity zones. So what is an opportunity zone? It is a designated census tract that has lower income in terms of the demographics than the tracts around it, okay? And the government wants to offer tax incentives to boost those areas, all right? They want capital gains to come in there and improve the areas to raise those areas so that they are like the areas around them. That's the intent, okay? So the census tracts were qualified by the local and state governments. People say, well, how did you get designated? It was the governors and the local governments that identified the census tracts, and then they were certified by the federal government. So there was kind of some different things going on there. When you get the presentation, this is an actual link, and you can go and see where the opportunity zones are in California. So it's always something good to know. Who's looked up their local area and knows whether they're in an opportunity zone or not? Only one for a couple people. Yeah, it's interesting because you may be surprised who is in an opportunity zone and who is not. So one of the things they used in terms of determining what an opportunity zone was this 20%, so poverty rate of 20% or median household income, again, compared to the areas around it. And then this other number, 125%. So lots of different metrics for how they described it. So what did we end up with? So 57% of all neighborhoods in America were up for consideration. 19% of the census tracts that were selected are in already gentrifying areas. Okay? So we just said that these are areas that have lower income. They're kind of depressed. You might be thinking war zone or, terrible neighborhood. That's not true. 19% of them, that's a large number, are in already gentrifying areas. Yeah, so over 8,700 opportunity zones are identified through the United States. So lots and lots. In fact, like if you look in Oakland, there's quite a few. If you look in the Bay Area, you'll find all kinds of pockets. And I'll bet you when you consider that neighborhood, you'll be like, how is that an opportunity zone? That doesn't make any sense, right? I don't know if any of you have looked back before, but if you consider when opportunity zones were, the data that they were using to designate the income for the opportunity zone, does anyone know what data was being used when they were picking opportunity zones? The 2010 census. Does anyone remember what was going on in 2010? Okay, so when you think about that and you think about those areas in your mind where you're like, that can't be an opportunity zone, think about what that area was doing in 2010, and then it makes a lot more sense. But some of those areas like Phoenix, Arizona, areas in Las Vegas, they are amazing places to invest right now, and a lot of them are opportunity zones because of this 2010 data, right?
I think what came out today is pretty much what is expected. But this idea, since it came out, really is a potentially transformative program that will unleash private capital into some of the areas of our country that need it most. And it's both an investment in real estate, where there's been a lot of the focus, but there's also an opportunity to invest in companies and create jobs in these areas. There still is additional guidance needed on both fronts, but especially on the company side. I think when you combine those two, if it's effective, this could really have a transformational effect in some of these communities.
So you could invest in real estate, or you could invest in a store, or you could invest in a restaurant in one of these opportunity zones. Walk us through, because Elon did it a little bit, but walk us through why these are so tax attractive.
Yeah, so it's a powerful incentive to unlock private capital to invest in these areas. So you can take a capital gain that you've already recognized within the last 180 days, invest it in an opportunity zone, real estate, a piece of real estate or a company, and you will defer the tax on the gain that you would have otherwise recognized until 2026. And if you hold it long enough, that gain gets reduced by 15%. And then you have a potential to eliminate the tax on the investment you make in the opportunity zone. So it is a very powerful incentive, but I think that's what Treasury was designing this to do.
So tax deferral at first, then complete tax-free, provided you hold the investment in the opportunity zone for a period of, I think it's something like 10 years, but you can correct me on that.
Yeah.
Now, how do you do this? Do you have to set up a fund, or if I'm an individual and I want to do this, will there be funds established that I can put my money in to take advantage of this? How's it going to work?
Yes, so there already is a whole bunch of lawyers and accountants and bankers focused on this, and I think it's both. If you have the means and the sophistication, you certainly can make investments directly, but there is a lot of capital formation already in the works to pool people's money together and invest it in opportunity zones. So I think people will have both options.
Hey, Mark, history is littered with disastrous outcomes born of the most well-intentioned things. I don't know how this is going to work out, but could you see some bad actors getting into this as well?
The history you cite is accurate, and anything that has good intentions and even sometimes good results can have the opposite. And hopefully, because this is potentially really powerful, I can't think of anything else that has the power to transform these communities the way this does, if it works well. But of course, it does need to be policed carefully. The rules need to be made and enforced in a way so that it is positive and the negative is eliminated.
Okay, a little bit of up and down there, right? We're going to dive into those numbers again. So don't worry if it went over your, if you're like, I didn't quite get all that. We're going to go through kind of almost everything he said. So how did this come about? Does anyone remember this guy, Sean Parker from Napster? Yeah, he's behind this. It's crazy that is. Like he's going to show up in another Facebook movie or something. I don't know, but here he is. And we have him to thank. It's a bipartisan bill that was put together with Tim Scott and Cory Booker. And so they wrote this legislation. They were helped from the nonprofit Economic Innovation Group in DC. And together they mapped out this whole plan of how they would assign a distressed community index and try to bring capital gains in. And then this was inserted into a provision in the tax code that came out in 2017. And when it first came out, nobody noticed it. People were all upset about this and that, and everybody, remember how everybody was kind of up in arms about that? Whatever side of the fence you were on, everybody was up in arms. Nobody saw this coming. So it took a few months before somebody was like actually reading the tax and went, what is this? And all of a sudden, then you started hearing about it, right? Do you remember how it just came out of nowhere about maybe about 6 or 9 months ago? Nobody heard about it when the 2017 law came through. So that's where it was founded. So let's talk about the benefits. When you are an investor, so we're going to talk about it from an investor standpoint, and we're going to talk, from somebody that's putting funds into an opportunity zone fund. And then we're also going to talk about it from an active investor who's purchasing, okay? Because those are two different sides of the coin, passive and active. So for a passive investor that's trying to shield taxes, the first advantage you get is tax deferral. So we're going to use a round number, $1 million, okay? Nice, easy number. So if you have $1 million that you need to, that you're just earning, maybe you sold some stocks, and what happened, the first thing you get when you put it into an opportunity zone fund is you don't have to pay your capital gains on it for 7 years. That's if you were putting it in today, okay? So you get a 7-year deferral. That's pretty nice, right? Okay, and remember we're talking federal here. Keep that in your head. This is federal regulation, We'll talk later about the state a little bit, but just keep that little nugget in your head. The second thing you get is at that 7-year point, you get a tax reduction. So if you have been in for 7 years, you get a reduction in the basis by 15% of how much you have to pay of that capital gain. So that's great. What happens if you get in not this year, so you wouldn't have 7 years, because this is a hard date. This 2016, in 2017, you're paying your taxes. What if you don't get in for 2 more years? 2 years from now, you sell something and you get into an opportunity zone. Well, now you don't get 15%, you get 10%. Okay? What if it's 2 years after that? I think 2 years after that, you don't get any reduction in your basis. Now you're paying 100%, but you still got it deferred a little bit. So what's the big deal here? This is the big deal. Tax exclusion. For the actual investment, the appreciation on the investment, if you keep your money in that investment for 10 years, then the gain, the capital gain that comes out of that investment is tax-free forever. So no taxes. You don't have to pay taxes. You don't have to take it and put it in someplace, something else. No more shielding of that money. That is just yours to do with whatever you want. And this is the big thing. People are like, yeah, this is kind of okay. I'm not so sure how I feel about this, but this is it. That's the big story. Oh, I replaced this slide with the slide before because my slide's much better than this one. This is just a lot of words. Okay, so let's talk about what types of tax gains are eligible. So first, we've got long and short-term capital gains, okay? So anything, so that could be in the stock market, there's billions of dollars in the stock market, right? The other element that you could have goals from a business assets. So it's not just real estate. You could be selling stock. You could be selling business. Capital gains from multiple sources. What other types of things could you be selling? You could sell personal assets, like a piece of artwork or an antique car. The whole goal is to free up all of the capital gains that people are holding on to because they don't want to pay taxes. That's the supposed goal. Obviously, we talked about gains from stocks. And then gains from sale of a property. So obviously, if it's a investment property, that's one source. Or it could even be your primary house. There could be, say you sold your house, you're married, you have a lot of equity in it. So you keep after the 121 exclusion of $500,000, the amount that's over that you gained, that would, you could put into an opportunity zone fund because you'd be paying capital gains on that. So lots of different things. So what is the time frame involved? In general, the time frame is you have 180 days from when you recognize that gain, whatever source that gain was, to get your money into an OZ fund. All right? So that's a nice long time. And how is it measured? It's different by gain type. So remember, I said talk to your CPA. It's really important to talk to your CPA. So generally, it starts on the day of the transaction is recorded, but that's not the same for every type of transaction. Okay? I mean, for publicly traded stocks, it's the trade date. It's pretty easy. When we're talking about real estate, it's the date of close. But for a REIT, undistributed capital gain, it's the last day of the REIT's taxable year. So you see, there's different types of investments or transactions that have their own rules about what qualifies. So just make sure that you talk to your CPA about it. You don't want to miss out on it. And then how long does the opportunity zone fund, say you put your money into a fund, and we're talking passive investor here, how long do they have to deploy the capital? So they have 31 months. So you put your money in, they have 31 months from the time you put your money into their fund to put it to work, okay? And they of course, you want to make sure that you can rely on those people to do that. If your gain is part of a partnership, both partners don't have to go in. You can only put your own in. So it's very flexible. Many of us are used to 1031s and lots of different things. That the rules are so strict. So opportunity zone funds have a lot more flexibility about what you can bring in, how you can bring it in. So it's pretty cool that way. Now, let's talk about what type of investments the opportunity zones can invest in. So now we're getting a little bit into the active side. Okay. I know a lot of people that are here may be interested in buying one for themselves, right? They're like looking to buy something in an opportunity zone, but they don't quite know what that means. So it is only for equity investments, which can be real estate or businesses within an opportunity zone. So that's like a whole field. I'm not going to be talking about businesses in an opportunity zone. I don't specialize in that. I personally specialize in real estate. One thing I personally feel is that you can have remember, you've got to stay in for 10 years. So if I'm putting my money into something for 10 years, I don't want it to have the ability to get up and move out of the opportunity zone, okay? A piece of real estate can't get up and move, but a business can. And so that's a risk in my mind, you know? So something I look at, but I'm a real estate girl, so. All right, so when you are buying this property, the rules are that you have to substantially improve the property. Well, what does that mean? Let's use that $1 million example again. Okay, this time we're an active investor and we're buying something for $1 million. So the first thing that's going to happen is there's going to be an evaluation of, for that $1 million, how much of it is land and how much of it is building. There has to be some determination of that, right? And then the amount that was building, you have to bring in that much money on top, again, to improve. So we say the $1 million, land was $250, building is $750. You have to bring in an additional $750,000 in order to meet the obligations of an opportunity zone. Okay, did anyone get the wind knocked out of them there? That was the punch you in your gut for an active investor, because a lot of active investors don't know this. And so what we feel this means is that we're talking about new construction here, right? Or you're talking about massive, you're not talking about a value add, you're talking about a massive repositioning of a property. We do a lot of value add investing, obviously. When we look at opportunity zones, we say, you cannot put enough lipstick on that pig. You just can't. So you're not, it is very unlikely that you're going to have a value add property that's going to work for opportunity zone. The only ones I can think of is if you had, say you bought a multifamily that, needed some work, you're going to turn the units, but there was extra land in the back and you were going to add on units. Because it doesn't make any sense to add $750,000 on top of $1 million, So yeah, that is a big key that everybody needs to kind of wrestle with and understand. So we talked about that. And the improvements must be completed within 30 months. So a lot of people are like, okay, $750,000, if I do $75,000 a year for 10 years, I think I can do that. No, you can't. 30 months, that's how you have to do it. You have to make those improvements within a certain time frame. And if you look at it from the government standpoint, it kind of makes sense because they don't want people like baby stepping through the improvements. They're trying to improve a community. So it's just part of the game plan. Oh, we already went through this. The rules changed. So this was the update that I told you about already. Before they hadn't defined it, and it was the entire $1 million you had to do. So this is, if you're investing in a fund that has multiple assets in it, 90% of those assets have to be in opportunity zones. So say it's a fund that's got lots of different properties, 90% have to be in. If you are a business, then 70% of your business has to be within opportunity zones. So those are just, again, some of those very specific numbers. Now we're going to look at the opportunity zone tax impact. So here's the incentives offered by the opportunity zone program. The first one here is if a standard portfolio, okay? So 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. And we're putting in the 100 there, okay? So we're putting in $100. Notice it took 5 years to recover from paying taxes. You put $100 in here. At 5 years, you're back to 100. Okay, so that's one thing I want you to notice right away. We didn't put 100 in at 5 years. We put 100 in, but we had to pay the taxes before we put it in. Okay, so that's how long it took us to regain after paying the taxes on. Here is now the opportunity zone, the additional income that you would have based on opportunity zone. So 9/15/44. Here's your deferral of 10% step-up basis. If you're in for longer, you've got your deferral of 15, plus another 5. And then finally, your deferral of total and your OZ funds shielded from the tax. So in general, for every $100 that you put in 2018, the investor will be $44 better off versus if they had just paid taxes and gone in. Now, some people like numbers a little bit more, so I've got a different example here, and we're going to do it more in a spreadsheet format, okay? Back to that $1 million. Here we are. This is a traditional investment. So this person, $1 million, they had to pay their capital gains tax. So this is how much money went in after the tax investment. Here we go. OZ investment, $0, $1 million goes in, okay? So now at the 10 value, so year 10 value, the properties has increased. And then what happens is they have to pay capital gains going back out again, right? So now we're here. With your opportunity zone investment, you've had the same amount of compounding happening. The same numbers are affecting it, but you don't have to pay money going out. And so we've got this number here. But don't forget, we've got to pay in year 7 our capital gains tax here. So we don't get away without paying anything. We have to pay the taxes that were coming in. It's just deferred. We had a step down, right? So here's the net difference. It's still pretty impressive, okay? Non-traditional investment, non-OZ, OZ investment. So this doesn't count the $1 million, by the way. This is the net difference. Pretty substantial difference. And for those people that just like pretty lines, this is the same numbers we just looked at in a graph. Again, you can see a pretty substantial difference between the two. Now, we can't talk about opportunity zones without talking about the potential perils of opportunity zones, because there are some. And we have come up with 5 perils and some more, plus their solutions. So let's go through those. So the first peril is, we've already talked about when you're doing opportunity zones, you're basically building new construction. We all kind of agree on that now, right? Because the amount of it's in order to be eligible. So if you are building a Class A building in a Class C area, that can be a problem. And you have to hold it for 10 years, by the way. So our solution for that, we've got a few solutions. First of all, remember those 19% of OZs? Invest in the already gentrifying areas. Just because it's an opportunity zone doesn't mean you have to pick the worst one. Use data. Pick one of the ones that's already gentrifying. It doesn't have to be a Class C or a Class C minus. It could be a Class B area, right? So that's the first way that you can avoid this peril of having a mismatch between your asset and the location of it. Now, another possibility is, because some people are very invested in a particular community, and that's just where that's where their heart is, and they really want to invest there. So one thing you can do is look to see if institutional money is going there. All right. So when you have a lot of institutional money, and you can look on all these opportunity zone sites and see where are other people placing their money, it's a much better bet that that area is going to be brought up if you have a lot of institutional money going in. And then finally, we have a very interesting concept that we call investing on the edges of opportunity zones. So remember, an opportunity zone is a census tract. I'll say it's just like my hand, okay? Imagine this is the area that has lower income. And around this area is all areas of higher income, right? So where is the best place to invest in that opportunity zone? Well, Mr. Bawa, mad scientist that he is, came up with this very compelling theory that where you want to invest is not in the middle. You want to invest on the edges, because it's much more likely that the edge is going to be swollen up by the surrounding area, okay? Yes, it's still going to be a census tract, but it's going to be almost like a cake where like maybe the center doesn't get baked all the way, but the edges are already cooked, you know? So you're going to enjoy the lowered capital, lowered cap rates of the surrounding areas, right? So look to invest in the edges of opportunity zones, and that can also help that situation. Second peril. Development teams are often not experienced in holding 10 years, okay? Are you getting there's a mismatch here? Because what do developers do? They build something, they sell it, they walk away and build something else. But in this situation, the developer has to stay on the team. Remember, you can't sell it. They're the ones that put all that, brought it up, right? And so they've got to stay on the team. If they sell it early, all of the investors lose their tax benefits. So that's a problem. So what we do is we look for developers whose track record, their MO, is that they build and they hold. That's how they do business. It's nothing new for them. That's what they do. Now, it is less of an issue in a very strongly gentrifying area because the tenant quality could be better. The bigger issue is with a developer who has no experience with C-class tenants and the issues that could be involved in. But if it's a really good area and the developer is really not going to be, maybe they're going to stay on. You don't want them to walk away from the project. Peril number 3. A lot of developers have no skin in the game beyond construction and lease up. So they don't really care how it does, right? What do they care? They built it, they don't have any more money in it. So we work with developers who are invested in it and they're actually bringing substantial money in themselves. Peril number 4. Oh, this is a good one. Construction projects can get stuck in entitlement and phasing. Is anyone familiar with that? How long it can take to do that type of stuff? Well, what happens to that timing? Remember how we have this very specific timing? Yeah, so that can be a problem. So our solution to that is whenever possible, we invest in projects that are shovel ready. So when we're bringing the money in, all of that entitlement, all of that stuff, all of those years of work is already done. So we don't have that risk or that time frame, that time frame risk that's involved. So we also can work with teams that already own their own land and project. We do that as well. And then we also look for projects that the city has blessed. That's an important thing too, because if the city's blessed it, then it's likely to make it through all of those entitlement, all those issues that can get caught up with the city. If the city's invested in it, then it's going to happen, more likely happen. Okay, last peril. Developers may only be working on the project because it happens to be in an OZ. Otherwise, they wouldn't be interested in it. We call those phantom projects. They're like, these projects that nobody wants to touch, but now that opportunity zones have come along, everybody's bringing them up and trying to sell them as being great. Well, they were never great to begin with, and they're not great now. So you really need to make sure that the quality of the project is there, despite, whether it's an OZ or not. So I left this slide in here because I wanted to give you some examples of what an opportunity zone can be. So first example here is San Jose, California. This building is new construction. It's actually just a little old house right now, okay? And then this is what it's envisioned to be. It's across the street from the San Jose Google campus. It is a quarter mile from the new Deridian BART station. Another quarter mile in the other direction from Adobe, who's already broken ground. And it's in an OZ. Like, how crazy is that? Like, that is nuts. But they're trying to gentrify this area. So this family owns the land. They've owned this little house. They've owned it for a while. They had a tenant in there, and the tenant ended up dying a few years ago. They got the tenant out, and we're going to shut it up. And then they realized, we're in an OZ. Let's look at what we can do to build this. They had a friend that's a developer. They brought the developer in, and they brought to the city a plan. We're going to tear down this house, and we're going to build 10 units. And the city said, no, not enough units. So they went back to the drawing board, and they came back to the city, and they said, okay, we made it bigger. It's 34 units. The neighbors said, not in my backyard. You are not building 34 units in a 5,000 square foot lot. And the city said, make it bigger and we'll pass it. So that's how you have 54 units in this location. So this is the type of stuff that goes on, but they're looking for more density. The city is invested in this. They didn't want 10 units. They know the issues they're facing with housing. This is another project. Again, just something we're vetting, but just to give you an example. Shovel-ready 250-unit tower in downtown Phoenix, Arizona. You guys understand what's going on in Phoenix, Arizona with real estate right now? It's nuts. It's crazy. The cap rates are like so low there right now. And this is just happens to be area that we can build 250-unit tower. So qualified opportunity zone. Oh, and there's this one. So this is actually a project that we're introducing next week. This is a project in Provo, Utah. I don't know if any of you have heard Neal talk on and on and on about Provo, Utah for years. This gorgeous 210 units. So here's the interesting part. Phase 1A is these units here, these two buildings. Because as you can see, it's a massive, massive structure. It can't all be built at once. So it's going to be built in pieces. It's called Mill Race Apartments. As I said, it's Opportunity Zone eligible. And we believe that this deal is good enough that people, regardless, they might just be bringing in their IRA money. So a lot of Opportunity Zone deals. I don't know how many of you have looked at the funds. Sometimes you go out and you look at a fund and they're like 9% IRR. That's what we'll give you. I don't know if you know numbers, but 9% IRR for a 10-year investment is incredibly low. So that's the type of deals that are out there. I can't give you numbers tonight, but that's not the type of numbers we're talking about. We're talking about numbers that people that aren't Opportunity Zone would actually find very, very attractive. And if you don't know about Provo, it has all kinds of accolades. It was given the best performing city 2 years in a row by the Millikan Institute, which is an extreme honor. I personally don't know of any other city that's been awarded that 2 years in a row. It wins all kinds of accolades, best city for millennials, yeah. So it's also featured in the US top 10 list, lots of different things. Oh, and one of the really cool things about this project is its transit-oriented development. This bridge goes from the base of the project over to Provo Station. And what's happening at Provo Station, there's the train there, and the train goes all up and down Utah. And it's not like one of those old trains that's really noisy and clackety. It's this beautiful new modern train. So they can just jump over here and get on the train. And what else is there? Buses. These are brand new buses that are in Provo now. Provo invested millions of dollars in these buses. And these buses they come every 7 minutes. So you don't have to be like, oh, it's going to be 45 minutes till the bus comes. No, every 7 minutes, there's a bus coming. And guess how much it costs to take the bus in Provo, Utah, which will take you all around to the universities and every retail place you would want to go, all of the stores. It's free. Yeah, it's free. So pretty sweet, right? All right, so again, I think you've seen this guy's face before. For any of you that are interested in active investing, I just want you to know that we have a boot camp coming up. Neal teaches a pretty awesome boot camp. Has anybody in this room been to his boot camp before? I know Katie has. So it's a very cool boot camp. It's packed full of information. That's actually how I met Neal, by the way. It was at Katie's recommendation. Katie went to the very first boot camp that was in the Bay Area. She told me about it. I went to the e-boot camp, and that's how I ended up volunteering for Neal and being vice president of the company in the long run. So it's a fantastic situation. The training is very eye-opening. It's very unique. He just pours content into people. It's phenomenal how much information he gives. Very specific tools that you can use right away. In addition, there is no upsell. There's no coaching. It's not like, when you go to those boot camps and they're like, oh, it's this much dollars. But when you go there, they're spending the whole weekend trying to get you into a $20,000. This is not like that. The boot camp is the whole burrito. There's no additional upsell. And then the last thing is it's filled with shortcuts, secrets, and strategies that you will not see anywhere else. It's not like you go to this one and you're going to be like, yeah, I heard that from Michael Blank before, and I heard that from Rod Cleef. They taught that too. No, Neal teaches stuff that you've never seen anywhere else. And why does he teach stuff you've never seen anywhere else? Because he created it. Now, Rod Cleef and Michael Blank have him come and teach at their masterminds. That's where he is. He's teaching at Michael Blank's mastermind tomorrow. So This guy just comes up with the most insane stuff, and then we apply it to our apartments and work it with our virtual army in the Philippines. If you haven't heard that story, it's a fantastic story, and it's an incredible experience. But yeah, so he teaches all of that is just out there. So very unique. I'll just skip through this. Lots of content that we have. I teach the underwriting, lots of bonuses, and it's coming up in September. So if you want to learn more about it, you can take advantage of the super early bird pricing. And now we're going to end with the fight between 1031 and opportunity zones and find out which one is better. I will tell you, full disclosure, I didn't write this original deck, but I've modified it over time because I'm a 1031 fan. I love opportunity zones, but in my world, OZ's 1031s, for my personal situation, 1031s rule. So with opportunity zones, you must reinvest your capital gains only within 180 days of sale. We learned that, right? For the capital gains tax. For 1031 exchanges, you must reinvest the principal and the capital gain. So you have more choices here. It's more flexible. And this round goes to opportunity zones. We talked about that earlier, where opportunity zones gives you a lot more flexibility than 1031. 1031 has very, very strict rules. All right, next one. An investor may place opportunity fund investments directly into the fund. No intermediary is needed. What happens with a 1031? You have to have a paid intermediary. The qualified intermediary, the 1031 exchange company, costs a little under $1,000. No getting around it. So clearly this one goes to opportunity zones. All right. Tax payment on capital gains of the initial investment may be deferred until April 2027. Okay, we talked about that. Capital gains tax payments for the initial investment can be deferred indefinitely with 1031s, as long as the asset is held by the investor or moved into something else. No capital gains taxes paid. Next. Capital gains from the sale of real estate or another investment such as stock gains can be used into opportunity zones. Not with 1031 exchanges. 1031 exchanges is now real estate only. I believe there was some weird time in history when it was more than just real estate, but they cut that out, so it's just real estate. So opportunity zones, definitely if you have capital gains, if you have stocks you want to sell or something like that, a business that you're looking to sell, opportunity zone, that's your baby. Opportunity zones can support a pool of funds that invest into multiple assets. You can either be a single asset with opportunity zone or have multiple. That's not the same with 1031. It's possible, but it's very, very difficult. So typically it's one asset that you're investing in per 1031, or maybe bringing two in there. So we're going to give that one to opportunity zones. All right, this is a new one. So for both, I'm going to tell you just right off the bat, if you're interested in passive investing into multifamily syndications, many people have heard that you can't 1031 into a syndication. And I'm here to tell you that that's not true. In fact, we actually take 1031, we have 1031 eligible projects. We just closed one last week. Or we just closed the raise for it last week. So if you are a 1031 fan and you want to be a passive investor, talk to me, check me out afterwards. We can get you on our list for 1031 people. But I'm giving this a tie because you can invest in a passive investment for either one. And if the investment is held for at least 10 years, the investor can expect to owe no capital gains tax. On the 1031, the capital gains tax on final sale of asset, unless they do not sell and pass on the property after death. Now, I have to say, Neal gave this one over here to opportunity zones. But in my household, we're all about passing on the wealth to our future generations. So this is no problem to me. So I gave it a tie. I moved it over. I just moved it over. He hasn't seen it yet, though. He's going to be presenting this slide deck one time, and he's going to be like, what happened to it? I made all kinds of changes to it. All right, and this is one of the changes because originally we didn't talk a lot about the states, but I am a big believer you need to know your state, what happens in your state. We've been talking about the federal tax code, the federal regulations. We weren't talking about state. So you can look in this right here, your state tax code. You need to find out, click on that link and find out what your state thinks of opportunity zones. And there's like a color-coded map. I'm going to give you a hint. California is red. That is not a good color. Okay? So if you're, figures, right? So if you are doing opportunity zones in California, you need to check with your CPA, but understand that you may need to pay from, you're not going to get deferral on your California taxes. Okay? Big difference there, right? 1031 exchanges have been around a long time, and most states are in alignment. California definitely is. But there are some oddballs, because I was doing some research to try and say, like, is it really true? And there are some weird ones where you have to do the 1031 within the same state in order for it to be eligible. And then there's some weird thing happening with Pennsylvania. I didn't even go into all the details of it. But there you've got the 2 links, okay? And you can do your research there. Okay, so I'm just going to put up these Q&A, and these are just some things that will sit up there, and I'm ready to take questions. Diana?
So you were asking about, when you were telling us about the substantial improvements in the 30 months.
Mm-hmm.
What percentage is that of your purchase? Is there a percentage?
So it's the amount of your purchase. Sorry, yes. So she's asking about the, when you're purchasing something and you need to have a substantial improvement, what percentage of the purchase is required to be a substantial improvement? Does anybody remember? It's the amount that the building, the ratio that the building is deemed, that portion. Okay. So if it was $1 million, if it was $250,000 was the land assessment and $750 was the building assessment, then you have to bring in $750. Yes, but here's a tip for you guys, for all of you that are having a heart attack right now, is a thing called cost segregation. Okay, you can do a cost seg study. It's going to cost you a little bit of money, but that cost seg person, especially in the Bay Area, is going to come in and say, no, the land's not $250,000. The land is the whole deal here. The land is like $750, $800,000. The building's worth nothing. Okay, so you can't, right? Because even when you're buying a building and it's, when we buy multifamily all the time, they always tell us you have to do cost seg studies. Of course, our investors love that. But when they just take the depreciation and they divide it amongst 39 years or whatever it is, it's crazy. Anyone will tell you that is no way to do it. When you're doing cost seg, you are actually doing the correct thing, according to the IRS, of actually going in and doing a study and assessing each thing and determining its actual value. That is the correct way to do things. And the IRS is all about it. You're not cheating by doing a cost seg study. So find out the value of the land, and that's going to give you potentially a big help.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
What prevents developers from selling the property before 10 years if they really want to? Are they prevent from doing this because of a contractual obligation or something else?
That's a great question. Arthur's asking what can prevent a developer from selling a opportunity zone project before the 10-year time frame. So if you're an investor, what guarantees do you have? Because if they come out even at 9 years, or it has to be in, by the way, 10 years and a day after the last investor's money came in. Okay, so that's an important factor too. 10 years and a day after the last investor's money came in. So what's to keep them from coming out? Now, the contracts that we write with our developers, because we always write internal agreements and contracts with our developers, if it's an opportunity zone, it includes that they cannot come out before 10 years. It's not, they simply cannot, because in our case, we're equity. We're bringing investors in, and it is our job to protect our investors. So we have various clauses in our agreement that do just that. And part of that is also making sure that if the investor has skin in the game, right, and that's staying in the project, then they're losing their tax benefits too. So it's kind of a double whammy, right? So, But if the project isn't going well and there's no benefits to anybody to staying in, that's a whole different situation. If there's no gains to be had, then because that's a question that always comes up. Like, what if there's a big recession and blah blah blah? And that's a decision that has to be made. If you have to come out at 5 years because there's no gains in there, what's the point of staying and suffering 5 more years if there's no gains, right? So that's a consideration. Good question, Arthur.
What is the difference between an opportunity zone and an enterprise zone? Are they the same?
So Eugene is asking, what is the difference between an opportunity zone and an enterprise zone? And they are not the same. And I believe enterprise zones have been around for quite a while. Does anyone, it seems like a concept that I've heard about for quite a while. I'm not an expert on them. So I can answer your question to say it is not the same, but I can't detail what an enterprise zone is. Yes. Mm-hmm. No, very good question, Linda. Linda's asking if you want to be an active investor, do you have to purchase the property through a fund? And the answer is no. It's a normal real estate transaction. In fact, I think how does a corporation or partnership become certified? It's basically a form that you file. So you buy the property. Diana just bought something. She just closed on something in an opportunity zone. So she's going to have to do a little bit of paperwork. It's very easy to do the paperwork on it. That shouldn't frighten you at all. So you become the fund. So even one property is an opportunity zone fund. Okay? It's just the terminology is kind of a weird choice of words. Our strategy, by the way, one of the things we're trying to avoid when we're investing in multiple opportunity zone projects is the potential peril of coming in and out. Like when you're selling one, like say you had a project that didn't do well and you decided that you had to come out of that one. If you had a fund that people were invested in multiple projects, that can get very muddy. So our strategy is each property is a single asset fund. And once you start looking more into opportunity zones, you'll see that a lot out there because the regulations are still being defined. And most syndicators or commercial real estate people are much more comfortable with a single asset fund. It's clean in, clean out. Any other questions? IRA money for that other project was, so the question is can IRA money also be used to invest in an opportunity zone? So the answer is you can put money into an opportunity zone project that is IRA money or money sitting in your savings account because it's the same type of thing, right? But you don't get any of the tax benefits. You don't get the deferral because there's nothing to defer. You've already paid taxes on it, right? And then you don't get the gain at the end.
What if I go all over into a Roth IRA, got hit with the big
That's a very good question. He's asking what happens if he rolls over into a Roth IRA and gets hit with a big tax. If it's capital gains that you would be paying, then I would think that would be a ding, 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 you win. Great question. I haven't had that one before. I'm going to do a little bit of research on that one. But any capital gain is eligible, basically. I've never seen a capital gain that's not eligible. Any other questions? I will tell you, I've seen businesses that are not eligible. Has anyone seen the businesses that are not eligible for opportunity zones? Anybody want to take some guesses? What types of businesses would not be eligible for opportunity zone benefits? Casinos? No, casinos are eligible. Growing weed is eligible. Liquor stores eligible. Okay. A massage studio. So if any of you we're looking to open a massage studio, a massage salon, a massage store, sorry, you can't do it in an opportunity zone and get the benefits. And here's another weird one. I feel like it must be related to our current president somehow, that somebody was trying to make sure he didn't take advantage of this. Golf courses are not eligible. Is that weird? I don't know where they came up with that, but almost everything else is. So like you can grow weed, you can do like you name it, you can do it. Just you can't be a massage studio and you can't be a golf course. Yes.
So, I didn't realize I had to fill out paperwork.
So
My accountant did that with me.
I don't know if your accountant does it to you. You should.
I told me about it about 2 years ago, so he gave me the heads up.
Then I hope your accountant should be able to help you with that. And I will tell you that one of the best sites for researching stuff. I'm just going to backtrack to this slide here. Novogradac. They are one of the premier kind of knowledge sources about how the federal regulations applies to actual tax scenarios and all kinds of scenarios. They're almost like a think tank about opportunity zones. So fantastic site. Usually if you do some type of Google, you're going to end up on the IRS code, which can be useful if you want to read that, or you're going to see them on the top page too for some reason. And so I definitely encourage you to look at them as a source of value when you're doing your research. Okay, so if any of you want to find out more about the 5 perils, I've got a text that you can send to, okay? If you want to get an ebook about the 5 perils, you can text 5 perils, the number 5, PERILS, to the text 44222. So 5 PERILS 44222 is the number you're going to text it to, and then you'll get our ebook on opportunity zones. And if you want to continue learning about opportunity zones, there's opportunities to do that as well. And then I will just throw up this last slide, which is again just reminding you. Thank you for joining me, by the way. And reminding you that we've got lots of great content on Multifamily U if you're not already connected to us. The boot camp is the only thing we charge for. We teach it 4 times a year. But everything else we do on Multifamily U, these meetups, webinars, I often teach 2 a week, all free. So please join us. I know I've talked to some of you in the room here. Paul is a regular visitor, and we love to take questions. And last night we were with Jillian Sidoti. She's a fantastic syndication lawyer, and you can ask all kinds of questions at the end. I'm like, people, are you kidding me? You have a lawyer sitting, waiting to take your questions. Take advantage of it. Like, she's awesome too. So lots and lots of great people to learn from. And if you don't, by the way, if you're like, oh, I'm not going to be there Tuesday night, I've got to be someplace else, just sign up for it because you'll get the replay and the slide deck. So you can watch it when you want to. So don't be afraid to sign up for it.
So you cover different topics in the real estate industry?
Commercial real estate, yeah. So like I teach multifamily deal analysis. These are just examples. If you go to Multifamily U, there's like a whole library. So you can watch. We've got, I don't know, so many up there because we just put the replays up there for people to enjoy. Of course, there's lots of Neal's speeches as well. And there's so much knowledge and it's all free. Yep. Okay. Thank you for being with me.